and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for my Game Week 30 team selection video where we're going to be working out how we're going to navigate pretty much the rest of the season with some strategy and some transfers. Guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure you do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started with our Game Week 29 scores. Okay, so in terms of a free hit, this could have gone a little bit better, to be honest. I mean, let's be real, a score of 15 points is not what you expect in a free hit game week, really, is it? A really disappointing one with Region with the red card straight away, getting the -3 points in that game week, and then no one else performed in terms of those FPL points. A lot of players had some good chances to score, had some good opportunities. Alanga, a kind of a shot cleared off the line, and assist cleared off the line as well for him in that game, and a couple other players having various opportunities to score, like Tony did very well in that game week as well, but ended up with 1 point. It was just a crazy game week, and really an unprecedented game week. Now, obviously, I wanted more points from my free hit team, but you guys know that I'm often an optimistic and positive person when it comes to FPL, and this is just the way I like to play. So I like to enjoy the game and just look at the funny side of things, and it was an objectively funny game week, but also, I'm not going to be too harsh on myself on this game week. I mean, I had 2 players going into game week 29. I'd planned to free hit this week, and I went through with that plan, and actually, I'm up 10 points from my non-free hit team, which is something, I guess. 10 points gained is the way I might be looking at this particular game week, but it also puts me in a good position for future game weeks as well. So, in another universe, if I had this information, if I knew none of these players were going to score any points, well, first of all, I would have picked different players on my free hit, but if I'm totally honest, like 99% of the time, I would have free hitted last game week because I had 2 playing players. You know, it was so obvious for me to free hit, and I'm not going to let the outcome and the variance perhaps affect my self-esteem too much. I think it was still the right decision for me at the time. It's just one of those things, and FPL is can often be a bat that just keeps beating you down, and it seemed like that a little bit last game week. But no regrets, and yeah, let's just move on from it because that's all we can do. Laugh and move on, because I think there's definitely some real nice opportunities that have emerged, particularly for people who did free hit in Game Week 29. I think the opportunities are very much there. I'm going to show you how I'm going to turn what looks like a disadvantage into a real advantage, because I think that's a big part of FPL, taking those poor results, taking those poor circumstances and switching them around, flipping them around and taking them to your advantage. Let's talk about that. So, 1 free transfer, 0.8 in the bank. Let's go through my Game Week 30 team as things currently stand, and yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit. So, first of all, in goal, we do have Kelleher. So, very nice that I did pick him up a little while ago. It's going to be a good goalkeeper to have for the next couple of game weeks. I think he should be good until at least Game Week 32. I think Alisson may be targeting the Manchester United game as a potential return to the starting 11 for Liverpool. So, it'd be really nice to own Kelleher for this Brighton and Sheffield United fixture. Very cheap as well. So, decent goalkeeper to start ourselves off. In defence, we've got Kieran Trippier. No news at time of recording on whether he is going to be available or not. I think there is a chance that he is available for this West Ham game, but at the same time, now we know that Newcastle will not have a double game week in 34. At 6.7 million, he seems to be way too much money, and I'm still not fully convinced about Newcastle defensively, particularly as they've now also lost Botman. So Trippier very much on the chopping block. Gabriel is up next. He is flagged at the moment in FPL, but I believe that he was withdrawn from the Brazil squad as a precaution, and actually there's no real big new significant issue there or anything like that. Just as a minor Achilles issue that he wants to kind of manage a little bit, manage his time, maybe playing games, and therefore when we come into Game Week 30, we would expect him to start in this game. I think he's going to be straight back into the action, and definitely not a player I'd be looking at removing. And finishing off the defense, we have got Zabani, a player who was a bit of a legend of Game Week 28 with that goal, wasn't he? But up next, we've got these nice fixtures against Everton, Crystal Palace and Luton Town, all in a row. So definitely a defence that we don't mind being invested in. Bournemouth, you know, a mediocre defence maybe, but this year, you know, defenders, you never know where they're going to come, the clean sheets points are going to come from. Often they are few and far between, but you definitely back Bournemouth against Everton as a potential clean sheet for Game Week 30. Everton consistently struggling to get a lot of goals. In midfield, we've got De Bruyne up against Arsenal. In fairness, this is a fixture that De Bruyne likes a lot. However, we're talking about City versus Arsenal is very different today as it perhaps has been in previous seasons, with Arsenal really being that toughest defensive nut to crack in the whole league. So I'm not super confident about those Man City attackers this game week, and De Bruyne definitely could be a player I'd look to sell this week. Next up, Bukayo Saka, another player who is flagged, but again, another player who I'm not too concerned about his minutes going into Game Week 30. Again, he was withdrawn from the England team as a precaution. There's no new issue there with Saka. It's just a case of resting him and getting him ready for this final part of the season. That's why he was withdrawn from the England team. So I think he should be absolutely golden to play. And on De Bruyne, I know he's also flagged in FPL, I believe, but De Bruyne is back in full training. There's no concern about De Bruyne whatsoever. He's expected to start against Arsenal. But yeah, Saka, you know, I haven't seen any training pictures of him yet. I'm hoping to get maybe some kind of update tomorrow, but I'm not worried. I think he starts pretty easily. Phil Foden, again, not a player I'm super happy about having for this game week. The Arsenal versus Man City players, you know, it's not ideal to have them this week. But the fact is, Arsenal play Luton next week. Man City play Luton in a couple of game weeks, both at home. And I think after this game week, Man City players become must-owns again. So I think I'll have to hold Foden for this Arsenal game and then go on from there. If you're on a wild card or something like that, then maybe Foden isn't included for this game week for you, and you maybe look to bring him in the following game week or not at all. But yeah, certainly not super confident. But hey, look, if we're looking at this Arsenal versus Man City game, we are looking at Sakas and Fodens and Haalands to kind of get involved in those attacking returns if that is going to happen. We've got Cole Palmer to finish off the midfield, a player that I know a lot of you guys are looking to bring back into your team. And I have to say, I'm very, very pleased I managed to hold on to Palmer, because it's kind of like one less issue for me to worry about, one less player I need to worry about, and I already have him ready to go in my team, which is actually pretty nice, and I can focus on spending my transfers in other areas of the pitch, because this Burnley game really is very, very nice for him indeed, and I think he could do fairly well in that fixture. Pretty much a must-own player for Game Week 30, to be honest. Moving up front, Erling Haaland, like we kind of mentioned. Again, not super confident of him against Arsenal. If anyone's going to score against Arsenal in the entire Premier League, you put Haaland up there as one of those players who could do it. Always a player who has that capability of scoring goals, scoring FPL points. You know, he's on penalties as well, which you never know when you're going to get against a team like Arsenal. So I think he's a solid pick for this game week, but again, not a non-essential player, a player that we need to kind of manage our expectations of him this week compared to maybe some other game weeks. Ollie Watkins is my next player in the forward position. Wolves at home, which is not such a bad fixture. Wolves kind of tracking mid-table in those defensive numbers. A home fixture is always positive for Aston Villa as well. We know they like those home games, and hopefully Watkins can get back to getting those FPL points, because he's been very quiet over the last couple of game weeks, and before that, he was very, very energetic. He was scoring a lot of goals. He was getting involved in a lot of chances. Maybe he's not had any direct chances over the last couple of game weeks, but he's still been, you know, in and around those dangerous areas indeed. So I don't think Watkins is over yet. I think there's still maybe one more game week we maybe want to hold on to him before he plays the likes of Man City and Arsenal away from home in that next block of 3 fixtures. But Wolves first, I think that's quite nice, actually. Even that Brentford fixture is pretty nice as well. But I have a feeling that Watkins, with no more double game weeks this season, might be a player that a lot of people look to sacrifice in the near future. And Solanke is my next and final player in the starting 11. Everton at home. Solanke tracking with some phenomenal underlying numbers. I think we would be talking about Solanke in a very different way had he scored his penalty and his disallowed goal a couple of game weeks ago, and we would be kind of considering him one of the best FPL assets in the game. But unfortunately, the FPL points haven't been quite as high as we maybe expected. Blank game week last week, so maybe that's also kind of people maybe forget how dangerous Solanke is in this Bournemouth team. I mean, this Bournemouth team, if they are scoring goals, it's going to be Solanke pretty much. That's kind of the way things go with this guy. He is just so heavily involved in everything his team does. Got great fixtures over the next 3. Manchester United at home in game week 33, and then game week 34, double game week for Bournemouth. So nice to have him in my team. I think he's going to be a hold for me, at least until that double game week in 34. On the bench, another double game week goalkeeper in Neto. We've got Hwang, who is still injured. I'm not really sure when he's going to be back. I'm hoping he's back before the double game week in 34, because Wolves do have a double game week in 34. Can I afford to hold on to Hwang and just leave him on my bench until that moment? I don't know. Let's see about that. Estupiñán and Taylor, however, defenders who I'm just not interested in playing this game week with some tough away fixtures for each of those teams. But I wonder if Estupiñán can maybe come in and play some minutes for me in the future. I'm not sure, again, because we have got some tough fixtures for Brighton at the moment, even though they have seemed to improve a little bit defensively. So that is my starting 11, guys, and my bench. But we do need to make some changes. And I first want to have a look at the kind of players I'd be willing to sacrifice in this team. So, certainly Trippier is a player I'd be willing to sacrifice. Now, my goal now is to hold off my wild card for as long as possible. And I think what I plan to do, I'm pretty sure it's what I plan to do, is to wild card in game week 35 and bench boost in game week 37. That is my personal strategy, and we're going to go through my full strategy towards the end of this video. But and I'm going to show you week by week what kind of moves we're looking at making potentially. But what we have with Trippier is a player who doesn't have a double in 34, and that's the game week I'm targeting, because I am dead ending towards game week 34, bringing in players who double in 34, and then we're going to reset our team, and maybe we even bring Trippier back in game week 35. So definitely a player with his potential injury, with the fixtures not being too bad, but me still not trusting Newcastle. I think he is a player that I might want to remove from my team. So yeah, at that price, I think he's going to be a real nice cash cow player. Zabani, I would be willing to sacrifice, I guess, despite the double coming up. But yeah, I think it's such a low priority sell that I don't think I will be selling him, but he's definitely a player, the kind of player I could sell. Watkins, another kind of cash cow player that I'm probably going to sell at some point in the near future. Could I sacrifice him now? That's maybe a little bit luxury. De Bruyne, I think, is very, very obvious to sell, and I think the kind of the real reality of the situation is I want to remove De Bruyne and bring in Salah. And in order to do that, I need to free up some money. So let's look at the cash cows I have here. Trippier, I could downgrade him to free up the money to upgrade De Bruyne. Watkins, I could downgrade him. I need to free up around 1.7, 1.8 million, something like that, in order to make the De Bruyne upgrade. So one of Trippier or Watkins needs to be downgraded in order to do that De Bruyne move. We also would have like Hwang, Estupiñán, Taylor. All of these players I would kind of be open to selling. But again, I think it's low priority. I don't think I can sell a Hwang, Estupiñán, or Taylor really and generate enough money from the sales of those in order to make that upgrade to De Bruyne. So it is going to be De Bruyne being removed, and it's going to be a case of removing probably one of Trippier and Watkins in order to get that real upgrade in there in my team, to get that Salah into my team. So yeah, let's look at some of my transfer targets. So obviously Salah is in here, but let's go through it position by position and kind of show you the kind of players I'm interested in at the moment. I think for goalkeepers, I'm actually pretty happy with my goalkeepers right now. Neto is probably going to come in and be my main goalkeeper for double game week 34, because I can't see Kelleher being the starting Liverpool goalkeeper by that point. But Pickford, I think, is an interesting goalkeeper at the very least. Don't think I'll be buying him, though, to be perfectly honest. For defenders, I'm definitely interested in Ben White. The problem is, if I'm going to sell Trippier, I need a bigger downgrade than, you know, Trippier down to White. So there are a couple of other defenders here that I like the look of here. Mikolenko, Aït-Nouri, and Munoz of Crystal Palace. All of these three players have double game weeks in game week 34. Not too bad double game weeks either. And a lot of these players actually have fairly decent fixtures, with the exception of Aït-Nouri, who has a tough game against Villa away this game week. After that, Aït-Nouri's fixtures are actually pretty good. Quite like them. But I think, yeah, maybe Mikolenko or Munoz. Munoz maybe doesn't have the greatest fixtures in game week 32 and 33, but he looks good for 30, 31, and 34. So there's some maybe messing around I need to do and trying to figure out which of the defenders I need to go for. I'm going to share with you the kind of plan I've come up with that I think involves some of these defenders in order to get them for game week 34, and also make sure I do have a decent defense every game week up until game week 34. Some of you guys will be probably thinking, okay, what about Jakub Kiwior? I'm actually not super keen on Jakub Kiwior, even though he has been playing very well for Arsenal. I do worry by the time we get to game week 34, where we have the Arsenal double game week, which I would be targeting. I wonder if he might be rotated a little bit. We might see, you know, Tomiyasu getting some minutes at left back. Zinchenko is obviously there and available, and even Jurriën Timber is now kind of back in training, and we're going to start to see Jurriën Timber get some minutes for Arsenal as well. So by the time, you know, we're talking about game week 34 being, you know, well over a month away. By that point, it could be a case that Kiwior is not starting every game. So Therefore, I am mainly looking at these slightly cheaper defenders from other teams. And I think if I'm looking to take a third Arsenal player, I'm probably not going to look for Kivior. Probably not going to be able to get White this game week, but maybe something I can think about in future game weeks. For midfielders, Salah. So obvious, but I also do like Son and Eze. They are players that I would like to have in my team if I can fit them in. I just don't think it's going to be possible, so it's going to be Salah for me. And in terms of forwards, I would love to have Darwin in my team, and if I could, do the De Bruyne and Watkins to a Salah and Darwin, I think I would be more inclined to do that. But if I sell, try to downgrade Watkins, I will have only 7 million to spend on a forward, which kind of brings in Cunha into the equation really as a potential other forward I could go for. Again, double game week in 34 for Wolves. Wolves with not so bad fixtures either coming up, so I actually don't mind going for a Wolves attacker or two in the team. Could be actually pretty interesting and a bit of a differential as well. Even could potentially be on penalties, Cunha, which would be pretty nice. So let's make some suggested transfers that I could make. So we know it's going to be a -4 because I've got to make a double transfer. I think the ones I've spoken about a lot already are De Bruyne and Trippier for Salah and a cheap defender who doubles in 34 to get that additional double game week defender. And that could be Munoz or it could be Mykolenko. Now, Munoz I very much like because he's a very attacking right back for that Crystal Palace team. His underlying numbers are good, and Crystal Palace's defensive numbers are actually getting better and better with each game week. They're actually kind of in the top 5 or 6 teams for expected goals conceded over the past couple of months, which is really, really nice to see. Crystal Palace really improving their defence. Mykolenko and Everton, not a bad defence either. They are slightly above mid-table for their defensive numbers, and we know Mykolenko does have some decent attacking threat in that team as well. Double game week in 34 is obviously going to be very nice as well. And I've not included Aït-Nouri because, one, Aït-Nouri has a more difficult fixture now, and I need to buy a player who I'm going to be starting in game week 30. Aït-Nouri versus Aston Villa, not super keen on that. But also, Wolves' defensive numbers are actually tracking a little bit worse than both Palace and Everton at the moment. So actually, I'm slightly more interested in Palace and Everton's defence than I am in Wolves' defence if I'm making a transfer move this week, which I am. And the other option is to sacrifice Watkins instead of a Trippier and go for Cunha in there to free up some cash there, free up quite a lot of money. But the one problem with this one is if I was to do this, it would make it much more difficult for me to get Darwin Nunez into my team, and he is a player I would like to get in the near future. And I'm going to share with you, of course, how I'm going to be getting Darwin into my team in the very, very near future, but probably not this game week. This week is just not going to be possible, unfortunately. So I think it's going to be a defender move for me, Munoz or Mykolenko. So guys, let's put those transfers in for the sake of the video. Yeah, it's going to be De Bruyne out and Trippier out, and we're going to be replacing them with Salah and Munoz. I think is the way I want to go with this, and the reason is because I've come up with a strategy where I can cover Munoz for the Man City and Liverpool tough games, where I would want to bench Munoz ahead of that double game week in 34, where I'd actually very much like to play Munoz. So this is what my team is looking like now. It's not ideal with the 4 Arsenal/Man City players playing against each other. That is not ideal. But I believe outside of that, the team is fairly strong. We've got the likes of Salah and Palmer. We've got Watkins and Solanke. We've got a lot of strong players around that. And, if there is a couple of goals in that Man City versus Arsenal game, well, hey, it is going to come from the best players anyway. And those kind of best players are Haaland, Saka, Foden. So I am still feeling that there's definitely a chance of attacking returns for each of those players. Hey, maybe Arsenal win a couple of goals to nil. Saka and Gabriel, maybe, Saka putting in a cross for a Gabriel header from a corner, something like that. That could work really, really nicely, even if Arsenal don't keep a clean sheet. So yeah, I think there's definitely potential for these great players, even if it's not optimal, it's not ideal this game week. Outside of that, though, I'm really, really pleased with my team, and I think more importantly, it sets up my team really nicely going forward. In terms of captaincy, right now, I am on Mo Salah. I think this makes a lot of sense. He's probably the standout captain of the game week. Vice captain on Cole Palmer, but I'm really just very keen to share with you my plans going forward for the rest of the season, because I really do think I've got this next period of fixtures on lock with a strategy. So we are on the Fantasy Football Hub of my team tool. Of course, if you want to check this out, as always, the link is in the description. You can get yourself a free trial to use the full version of this tool like I'm using today, or you can just try it out for completely free forever, which is fine if you want to do it that way as well. But I'm just going to take you week by week, my kind of rough transfer plans and strategies moving into Game Week 34, because a lot of people will be free hitting in 34, trying to get a great free hit team for Game Week 34. I think I can actually do it with just free transfers online. I think I'm in really good position here to get a full team of players for Game Week 34 that all double, which is amazing. Guys, let's go through. So Game Week 30, like I said, we were taking that -4 in order to get Salah and Munoz into the team, which takes us through into Game Week 30. Game Week 30, we will be making one more transfer, and that would be to remove Watkins and replace him with Darwin. Of course, Watkins playing against the likes of Man City, Darwin playing against the likes of Sheffield United. It is really, really chalk and cheese in like comparative fixtures. Darwin with a far superior fixture there, and this is kind of what the team would look like for this particular game week. And I think it's not too bad. I think it's pretty decent, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll have Kelleher against Sheffield United as our defensive cover for Liverpool, and then we'll have Salah and Darwin, probably the two best attackers against the weak Sheffield United defence as well. In addition to that, we'll have the double Man City attack. We'll still have our Arsenal players against Luton, and then we'll be sprinkled around that likes of Solanke, Palmer, Zabani and Munoz to finish off the team. Going into Game Week 32, I would be looking to make another small change here as well, and I've put in Mykolenko for Estupinian. Now, it doesn't have to be Mykolenko here, actually. We could also go for Ait-Nouri here if we wanted to. We could also actually go for Ben White here as well, because we would have freed up the money by downgrading Watkins to Darwin the previous game week. We could actually go for Ben White here and double up on the Arsenal defence. Go double Arsenal defence, one Arsenal attacker. But honestly, guys, I think I'd be more tempted to go for an additional attacker for Arsenal, actually. So, yeah, Mykolenko is the player I've kind of put in here. He plays in Game Week 32, a home game against Burnley. So it's actually a really, really nice time to kind of own and bring in Mykolenko, because there's really nice chance of a clean sheet in that particular game week. If Kelleher is still available, in Game Week 32, I'd potentially be looking to play him against Manchester United, but I guess we'll just have to take Kelleher week by week and play him for as long as we can, I guess. Moving into Game Week 33, now I don't actually have a transfer plan for Game Week 33, so it would maybe be a case of if we get like an emergency injury in our team or something like that, we would be using this as an opportunity to use that spare transfer to fix something if something breaks. But also, if nothing breaks, I think we're in a great position, because it will let us roll a free transfer into Game Week 34. Now, Game Week 34, my immediate transfer thoughts are to bring in Eze in for Foden, which would, in fact, get me a total of, well, technically, what's that? Technically, including Kelleher, it gives me like a whole bunch of double game week players. If He-Chan is available by this point, then I will not only have I could have a full team of double gaming players, but I would probably rather play Haaland than Zabani, if I'm totally honest. Kelleher will not expect him to actually have a double game week by this point. But if I do make the Foden to Eze transfer at this Game Week 34 junction, well, I'll still technically have one more transfer to use if I didn't use that transfer I just rolled. And in that case, we could go for one more, and we've got a decent amount of money in the bank as well. And I think the way to go here would maybe to go for an Ødegaard or a Martinelli or a Kai Havertz potentially. I do kind of half like the idea of not going for that double Arsenal defence. We could, of course, do the White instead of Mykolenko and then maybe look at a different team, maybe. But I like the idea of having this option to maybe switch out a Cole Palmer, maybe out and bring in, I'm not sure who it will be. The safe pick would probably be Ødegaard. But we could also do Ødegaard in here and even bench Haaland if he is unavailable. If He-Chan is available, we would, obviously remove Haaland. If He-Chan is actually unavailable for Game Week 34, then he's actually the player we would transfer out instead of Palmer, and we'd leave Palmer on the bench, and we'd still have the same starting 11. So, guys, I'll have one -4 in Game Week 30. Aside from that, it will be no hits taken. No hits taken at all for the rest of the time until the double game week. And I can easily get a full team of double game week players. And it's not just a team of double game week players. I think it's a very strong team of double game week players as well. I think the only thing maybe missing from this Game Week 34 team is maybe that third Liverpool player. Maybe it would be a Trent Alexander-Arnold or a Diogo Jota. I don't know, someone like that, Luis Diaz. Don't know, you could go various ways, couldn't you, with that final Liverpool player. But outside of that third Liverpool player, like, this is pretty much what a Game Week 34 free hit team would look like anyway, roughly, right? So I can do it without a free hit. And it's all because I planned to free hit in Game Week 29 and kind of predicted the fixtures in actually quite well. Some things also fell in my favor and got a bit lucky with some of those things as well. And actually, it's turned out quite well. I don't need a free hit for Game Week 34. I feel like using this plan I've just laid out in front of us, guys, this works. This works. It's fine without a free hit. And that allows me to go into Game Week 35 and play my wild card to refresh the team and go in to bench boost in Game Week 37. Guys, this looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I'm very, very pleased, actually, with the way things have turned out. And I think I can make a good run of this next 5 game week period just using, just transfers alone. No chips needed, which is exactly kind of what I wanted. So, guys, yeah, that is my plan. Let me know what you think about it. Have I got things right here, do you think? Is there any minor modifications I could make to my strategy? And is there any questions you guys have about your own strategy moving forward? I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. But I do appreciate you guys watching today. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here. And there's plenty more FPL content on the channel as well if you want to go check out another video. But, guys, I will see you tomorrow for a final decisions video where we will be covering all of the press conferences. So I'll see you there, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.